Hornets get TKO'd by the Miami Heat, moving to 2-2 on the season. This is one of those games where you can see a sport in another sport. And if this didn't look like a boxing match, I don't know what does. The Hornets are the more talented fighter that laid some big punches early on. And, the experienced fighter would go to the corner after each round and would get some water and would come back out and impose their will on the younger, more talented fighter in the Charlotte Hornets. The experienced fighter is coming out and they're moving their feet and they're getting the jab working and they're winning the tie-ups. So in the spirit of boxing, going round by round, I want to go quarter by quarter as we analyze this game. I'm joined by Matt Alquiza, Hornets writer for Sports Illustrated. Matt, there were a lot of times in this game where the Miami Heat punched the Hornets hard, and the Hornets are laying on the floor, and the Heat are saying, stay down. And the Hornets would drag themselves up, bloodied in the eye, bloodied in the lip, and they say, hey, I can do this all day. But that wasn't the first quarter. The first quarter, this was anyone's game, and if anything, the Hornets came out really strong. What did you see in that opening quarter by Charlotte?
It was LaMelo Ball as the engine again. What, 15 points and 5 assists or 5 rebounds, something in the first quarter. I mean, he was incredible doing what LaMelo Ball does, hitting three-pointers, making the right pass to open guys, just stirring, this being the straw that stirs the drink of the offense. His shot was falling, and that he tried to take that into the second quarter, which we'll move on to here in a few minutes. And that's kind of what lost Charlotte the game in that second quarter was LaMelo, and the rest of the team's shot wasn't falling. But in the first, I mean, he was sublime again. It was just a continuation of the all NBA level that he has played to start the season.
Yeah, on the last pod we did, I'll leave that up here. I never know where to point for these things. But we talked about how Ryan Kalkbrenner and the rookies on a game by game basis are going to get so many different looks, so many different guys that they have to guard. And it was weird where Ryan Kalkbrenner is being guarded by Kelly Ware when he's on offense, but he's having to guard Bam Adebayo on defense. And that kind of mix and match with him was really cool. Interesting stuff in the first quarter that happened as well. Knueppel not getting many touches in the first quarter. And I'm looking at my TV and I'm saying he's more than just a guy who spotted up in the corner saying, hey, I'm here. I'm here, LaMelo. I'm here,
Mhm.
Miles. That's something I flagged. Colin Sexton was able to get downhill consistently in the first quarter. And I'm thinking, okay, if he can get this much rim pressure early on, this spells trouble for the Miami Heat. Anything else you saw in that first quarter?
Yeah, the Kalkbrenner-Khalil Ware matchup was fun to watch because it started out with Khalil Ware guarding Kalkbrenner when Charlotte had the ball. I think it was the first possession. Khalil Ware is like the what 7 foot, 7 foot plus wingspan, super athletic, Victor Wembanyama light kind of guy, like slender man. I can't remember what happened in the first possession. I think he dunked on Kalkbrenner just by being more athletic than him. And then the next two or three possessions down the floor, Kalkbrenner beat Khalil Weir by just being like stronger than him and like more physically imposing. So the matchup kind of went the way that you would expect it to in the first like couple minutes of the game, where Khalil Weir was more athletic than Kalkbrenner, able to get by him, and then Kalkbrenner went down the other end of the floor and kind of bullied him with his more like physical frame. So that was kind of fun to track for the first few minutes there until Kalkbrenner ended up having to guard Bam Adebayo, which did not go well for him for the majority of the night.
Yeah, you started this off by talking about LaMelo and, this basically being his quarter. As we talk about the good, I also want to talk about the maybe not so good. He starts off 2 of 2 from three, and the whole defense, transition defense was not there. LaMelo gets his
Hmm.
first foul by trying to keep up with Andrew Wiggins, and the Miami Heat start off on a track meet, and that's the first foul there. And then, LaMelo feels like he gets fouled. He's complaining to the refs. The Heat come down, they score. Charles Lee calls a timeout, and he meets LaMelo at the three-point line, really upset. We also see Miles Bridges kind of just trying to galvanize the team at that timeout. What'd you see right there?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. LaMelo, I think he went up for a two-pointer. He made it and got fouled and then didn't get back on defense. Charlotte gave up an easy layup the other way. We've talked about all offseason about how fast Charlotte plays, how they're, I think, number 8 in pace going into this game. Miami makes, if Charlotte is a Ferrari, Miami is a drag car. Like they are so fast out of the blocks, like getting down the floor. And they took advantage of Charlotte there. It felt like LaMelo just, had a blip on his radar, forgot the scouting report of how fast the Heat like to go, and he lost his focus for I mean, what, 2 seconds talking to the refs, and Miami made him pay. So it was good to see Charles Lee meet LaMelo out of the 3-point line and kind of, get up into him because that's what you want your coach to do to your leaders. No one is above coaching at any level of any sport, and to see Charles Lee hold his number one player accountable like that was good to see, especially after we talked about last time on this podcast where LaMelo kind of led the charge in the third quarter, and the story from Rod Boone came out later in the day that LaMelo galvanized the team at halftime. It's good to see that, yeah, he can be the one that dishes it, but he takes it as well from his head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, he took it and they come out of the timeout. He's a great defensive possession when Jaime Jaquez is posting him up. He forces a steal. Hornets get out and run. You can see Charles Lee clapping, like, yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
That mentality you just had on that possession needs to be for a 48-minute game, not, flashes. Those need to be the norm. And then I want to talk about the end of the first quarter because once you took LaMelo Ball out, as the great Biff Poggi would say, it looked like sausage was being made out there. It was really tough to watch the non-LaMelo Ball lineup when Colin Sexton is the primary ball handler. And sometimes you could see that this is where Brandon Miller was really missed. At the late first quarter, early second quarter, you need to have that extra guy who can bring some offense, who can kind of space the floor. And we didn't see that. What you see there.
Yeah, I mean, they very much miss Brandon Miller's shot making. He's one of the few guys on this team where you can just hand him the ball and you feel confident that you're going to get a good look 7 times out of 10, especially against a team like the Heat. I mean, they played so physical on defense tonight. Sexton's driving lanes were shut off because Miami was playing, like very tight defense all over the floor, playing physical with their hands, moving their feet well. Sexton didn't really have the ability to get to the paint like he's shown the first few games this season. But yeah, not having Miller on the floor where you can just hand him the ball at the high post and say, hey, get a shot here. Give him the ball at the top of the key set one screen. You know that he's going to be able to get downhill and get a look or get a jumper up at least. They very much missed his shot making, and late in the first quarter and late in the second quarter when Miami went on their massive run that kind of blew the game open.
Yeah, late in the first quarter, even mid first quarter, Hornets have the lead and they're up four, they're up six, but it seems like they can never get up seven or eight or nine, or
Hmm.
extend that lead to 10. A lot of it was because they had defensive lapses and allowed Jaime Jaquez to drill some threes early on and get him confident, and that kind of led throughout the entire game. First quarter ends, Hornets are down 34 to 37. Second quarter, let's talk about it. Starts off with Knueppel coming in, comes off a pick and roll, throws it up to Kalkbrenner, and we can see the rookie to rookie connection right there. I have this written down 9:56 in the second quarter. They go zone because Fontecchio was just on a flamethrower, and it didn't last very long. And I also wrote down too, if Bam Adebayo is hitting that corner three, this game is over.
Hmm.
Especially with Ryan Kalkbrenner having to get out there. This game is over if that shot is consistently going in. Early in the second quarter, what'd you see there, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, Miami did a really great job creating open looks. And I saw a tweet from it was the All City podcast, and I put a tweet out, I think it was either today or yesterday, talking about how Miami runs the least amount of on-ball screening actions in the league. And that was something I was watching tonight. And it's just over and over again, they were able to create looks by having their guys just go one-on-one, and they have, off-ball motions, and they have guys spotting up in the right places, and the guy in the dunker spot who is, cutting at the right time for a look at the basket. It just felt like Miami was just such a well-oiled machine on offense. And to watch them just pick Charlotte apart possession by possession with Fontecchio, with Jaquez breaking a guy down one-on-one, or Pelo Larson, or Nikola Jovic. It was fascinating to watch them operate with like such minimal ball screen actions. But when you have guys that you can trust them to make the right decision, you can trust them to win a one-on-one matchup, you can trust them to finish in the dunker spot or knock down a corner three, you can play that way, especially when you're playing as fast as Miami was. It just felt like Charlotte was just like unprepared for I mean, I hate this term, how stupid it is, the heat culture that Miami had tonight. Like they were just a completely well-oiled machine that took over the game in that second quarter, and Charlotte had no chance to, match the Heat's pace, match the Heat's like their offensive engine that they were tonight.
Yeah, Colin Sexton, I said in the first quarter, is getting downhill whenever he wants, and it seems like Eric Spoelstra just said enough of this. I'm putting Andrew Wiggins on you. He's going to move his feet. You're not going to get to the paint nearly as much as you were in the first quarter. And then we also see that Ryan Kalkbrenner is running the break, able to get in a putback on Knueppel's fast break three
Yep.
that goes in. And then I also have written down here in the second quarter, Tijon needs to make that read out of the short roll faster. There are a few times
Hmm.
where he's setting the screen for Melo, he's slipping it at the free throw line at the elbow area, he catches it, and you have Con in the corner. You have Trey on the wing. You have your options, but Tijon's putting the ball on the floor, and then he's getting swarmed by Heat players. And at that point, when you know you don't, your judgment isn't maybe as good as it was if you made it off the quicker read initially. But then Trey Mann comes, and Trey Mann bails them out with a few threes. The first one was a bailout three as the shot clock's expiring, and that might have gotten Trey in rhythm in the second quarter. But then the Heat extended really, really big. And Matt, talk about the Hornets actually coming back and punching back on their own run in the third quarter. I think Sion James was a big part of that one. What did you see there where it seemed like, hey, the Heat are trying to extend, the Hornets are bringing it back, but they were never able to cut it to below 4 3 points?
Yeah, again, it's Miami just being the veteran squad. Like you laid it out really well at the beginning of this podcast with Miami being the like veteran boxer, the guy that has fought 100 fights at this point and taken a million punches, but they just know all of like the subtle ways to jab back, the little like head deeks to, avoid a knockout blow, and then they throw one of their own. I mean, you nailed it in saying that it just felt like I hate to boil it down to like variance, but Miami was red hot from three tonight. And looking back at the box score, I think Miami made 20 and Charlotte made 18 and over the course of the game. So it's not really even like that big of a difference behind the 3-point line. But I feel like every time Charlotte made a run, Miami just always had an answer at the right time, whether it was like a Hawkes drive where he would finish over a couple of guys or like a Pella Larson 3-pointer near the end of the shot clock. Miami just had an answer for everything. At the beginning of the third quarter, we saw in the second quarter LaMelo try to like continue hitting from the 3-point line, and he started to struggle. So he then in the second quarter, third quarter started to drive and get to the basket, try to draw some fouls. And he was doing that well to start the third quarter. I felt like the referee started to swallow their whistle a little bit about midway through the third quarter, heading towards the end of it. Charlotte was trying to put their head down, get to the basket when the jumpers weren't falling, and they weren't getting the foul calls. And Miami was, taking those misses and running, doing what they do, getting out of the blocks quickly, and they just buried Charlotte with that huge run in the third quarter after Charlotte cut the lead to four.
Yeah, so before we get to the third, I want to finish out on the end of the second where Sion James hits a three. Eric Spoelstra calls a timeout. We're tied at 57 with 4 minutes, 47 seconds left in the second quarter. The halftime score, Miami goes up 16 to end the first half. And I'm wondering, where did this happen? How did this happen? The wheels were falling off for this team. So now entering the third quarter, I say the first 4 minutes of this third quarter are going to be everything, right? If you have a chance to cut this lead from 16 down to 9, or the lead to balloon from 16 to 25. And we saw that in the first quarter, they weren't giving Khan many touches. In the third quarter, Khan came out and had three early threes. One of them was a catch high, keep high, no dip three that didn't go in. But
Yeah.
talk about the included or like saying, I don't know what happened at halftime. I don't know. I wish this was a home game because we could have asked Charles in the post game. But what do you think that adjustment was, or do you think this is, like you said, variance in the Hornets just coming out and hitting their shots in the third quarter?
It felt like a very clear directive to like get Khan the ball early in the third quarter. I mean, he is so good at like operating with minimal space, and his like catch and shoot ability is so quick. I mean, you just talked about that no dip three that he missed, but even when he like catches the ball, sets his feet, shoots it in rhythm, I mean, it's like Klay Thompson-esque with how quickly the ball gets up and how good he's shooting the ball. I think they flashed a graphic in the fourth quarter that he now has the NBA record for the most three-pointers in the first 4 games of an NBA career. I think he's at like 16 or 17 after tonight. So yeah, I feel like a clear directive to get him the ball. Charlotte was down what 60 to 76 at halftime. So you're gonna have to get some threes up to spark a run and make a comeback. And they did that. I mean, Khan hit his first his first three jumpers to start the quarter as Charlotte started to make that little comeback.
Staying on Khan, question I thought of that I want to ask you before we keep this card going. When's the last time the Hornets have had a knockdown shooter like Khan Knueppel?
Gosh, after they traded for Davis Bertans at the trade deadline like 2 years ago, is the first person that comes to mind. Um, I mean, Josh Green had his moments last year from the corner, but he's not like a sniper from all areas around the 3-point arc like Khan is. I mean, it feels like it's been a while since Charlotte's had a guy they can rely on as like a true floor spacer from every inch of the half court like they can with Khan.
And what's so interesting, I want to hear your take on this, is with Knueppel, he's gonna have to get used to seeing the hardest closeouts known to man, where defenders looking over like, oh shoot, Khan's open, and they have trying to hightail it back to the corner or the wing to try and get that hand up. And you can see that he's already kind of gotten his game, that hard pump fake, put the ball on the floor, stay balanced, and try to find guys out of that situation right there. So I'm really excited for him. I think that was one of the bright spots for the Hornets tonight. Sion James again is hitting his threes. I don't know, the law of averages might bring it back down, but for right now, it looks great. So
Let
mid,
me let me say this about
yeah.
about Con real quick too. The beauty of his game is that he's not just a 3-point shooter. Like that is the selling point. That is like going to lead the marquee when you look at the scouting profile of Con Knueppel. But he's so good also at putting the ball on the deck and making the right decision when he gets that paint touch. I don't know how many assists he had tonight. It had to have been like four or five, at least four or five like potential assists where he's kicking the ball out to a shooter or he's driving and dishing off to a big man who is either rolling off a screening action or cutting from the other side of the floor. His decision making is like veteran level. It does not feel like he's been in the NBA for 4 games. And I've said this even like during the draft season over on the BuzzFeed podcast that I co-host, that, like every white guy trope, like it is just true about Con Knueppel, and it sucks to like boil him down to the like last guy in the arena, first guy in, making the right decision, sneaky athletic, has more to his game than you think. But like it's just so true about Khan. Even like he had a little like manipulative handle in the second quarter where it's not like an and one crossover, but it's like a little push ahead dribble to create just a little bit of space for him to get to the spot where he can get a shot up. I mean, everything he does is just so good. It's like the old man at the YMCA, again, just another white guy like comment that you make about basketball players. But yeah, Kanye, he was fantastic tonight. He's been great through the first 4 games of the season. Everything that the Hornets wanted and more when they selected him at number 4 overall.
Yeah, and it's not just that he's making the threes, it's like also what type of threes are you shooting? And this is what I meant on the pod we did, I think a few days ago, where like Sion James is catching all of these on the softest of closeouts. He's catching
Yep.
these when the defenders are like, all right, man, 6 seconds left on the shot clock. Big whoop, have at it. Let's see if you make it. And he's making them pay for it. Khan is catching these in stride with the defender closing out, taking one dribble off the pump, reassessing, getting his feet balanced, putting it back up. He's getting a hard closeout, putting the ball on the floor, and like you said, finding his teammates and making quick, good decisions. It seemed like Charles Lee did not want to wave the white flag in this game, and he had that starting five in the third quarter for a long time. I think it was 5 minutes, 4 minutes left in the third quarter until he finally switched out Colin Sexton for Trey Mann, I believe. Then the Heat go on an 11-0 run, 5 minutes left in the third quarter. And I'm thinking at that point, all right, man, Matt, let me text you. Let's hop on this pod a little early. Let's see if we can get everyone, like sleeping early. But at the end of the third quarter, what did you see from Charles? Because this guy's like, I don't want to give it up, but at a certain point, Miami, it was just one of those nights.
I think this Charlotte team is pretty deep, right? I mean, they go 10, 11 deep with guys that you can trust to, make a run in an NBA game. So it didn't even feel like Charles ever waved the white flag tonight because even at the beginning of the fourth quarter, the lineup it was like Sion and Trey Mann and Tijan Salon. I can't remember the other couple of guys. Musa was out there. But like you have some faith in those guys to make a run. So even if Charles Lee is waving the white flag per se, keeping the starters out at the beginning of the fourth quarter for a while. You have confidence in everyone that touches the floor right now. And I say that because that is just the complete opposite of how Charlotte Hornets basketball has been for, I mean, the last 3 or 4 years. You get down to the seventh, eighth man on the bench, and you have no faith in them being able to like make a run in a game like this. So credit to the front office, credit to Charles Lee, credit to the coaching staff for like, identifying all of these guys that you can trust to, try to make a run in a game like tonight.
I agree with you on the part where you said that this team is deep, but I think a little pushback that I'll have is when you have the injury to Brandon Miller, now you have guys playing out of position.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
those guys who are deep, now Sion's not just doing the Sion role, they're giving it to him with 10 seconds on the shot clock saying, do something. And that's not what Sion is there for. Sion is there to be, the kick out guy to make quick decisions. And instead, he's getting the ball at the top of the key, and they're saying, "Hey, we need you to save us on one of these possessions."
Hmm.
So I kind of wrote down where I think LaMelo Ball and Colin Sexton on the floor together is great because you can have that secondary guy when LaMelo gets that pressure when the defense puts two on him to create for others. But it seemed like Charles had to stagger them more than ever in this game. And when he staggered them, I think the Hornets are best when those two on the court together. What'd you see from Colin being a primary and secondary ball handler, and how can this kind of be fixed a little bit? Is there a problem right now in the lineup when you don't have more than one guy who can do the same thing on the court at the same time?
I don't think it's a problem. I think it's worked really well for 3 games, and tonight was a bit of an aberration. Again, the Heat were playing this like uber physical defense. We saw Khan got loose second and third quarter, but the first quarter, I mean, they were like airtight coverage on him every inch of the floor whenever Charlotte got the ball. So I don't think there's a problem. I think Charlotte's offense kind of stagnated tonight. You could feel that there was like some frustration with how easy the Heat were scoring. Charlotte's offense, it just didn't look as like fluid as it had the past couple of games. There was a lot less of the like double drag screen actions that Charles Lee likes to run. They weren't getting into their like early offense that they liked, the like pistol sets that Charlotte gets into to create actions early on when they have the ball. It felt like a team on the third game of a road trip, their first long road trip of the season, missing a starter, re-engineered lineups. So I don't think there's a problem at all quite yet. Give them another like night off. They get a home game against Orlando on Thursday, and I think things will start to look a little bit better for Charlotte then.
So, like you mentioned, this team, 3 game road trip, kind of a let's see what this team has on this third game. You're facing the
Yeah.
Heat, and it was one of those nights for Miami. So my question to you, 2 days, Thursday, floundering Magic. How do you get back and get ready for that game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll get home tonight, have an off day tomorrow, and then you just got to get back to the arena and play on Thursday. Miami is going to be a tough matchup for Charlotte. They're so big. I mean, I feel like they have great positional size everywhere across the board. So who's going to guard Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero and Desmond Bane? Like that trio of 2, 3, and 4 in the Magic lineup, that's going to be guarded by three of Colin Sexton, Con Knueppel, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges. Like the matchups in that one are going to be fascinating to watch. Orlando has not been good to start the season, but that's the kind of team that I feel like is going to give Charlotte fits. It's going to be a long night for Ryan Kalkbrenner protecting the rim because he's going to get pressured by those guys, especially Paolo. Again, another guy who's had a rough start to the season, but I mean, he lives in the paint, he lives in the restricted area. He has lost a bit of his athleticism since he had that oblique injury, but I mean, he's going to play bully ball all night. And if he gets past Miles Bridges, it's going to be on Ryan Kalkbrenner to slow him down. Same with Franz Wagner. I mean, he's a great driver of the basketball. Who's guarding him? If he's going to get by Colin Sexton or LaMelo, again, it's going to be on Kalkbrenner to slow him down. So I don't have a ton of expectations for Charlotte in that game. Orlando has not been great to start the season, but again, a measuring stick game for them too, right? Division game, Charlotte's 2-2, they're playing well. The headlines of that Charlotte is this new like up and coming team with a great offense, where Orlando was supposed to be that team who was supposed to turn things around and make like a deep playoff run this year. So it'd be a fun one to watch. I would probably lean towards Orlando if I had to make a pick right now.
Yeah, you mentioned how Miami played a very physical brand of basketball, and the Magic are only going to replicate that. If anything,
Absolutely.
push that to the limits. So let's see how the Charlotte Hornets bounce back. Matt, you were writing a lot this week. Tell us what you wrote about and send me the links to them, and I'll put them under in the description of this video.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things. One on Con Knueppel, how he's just been the like perfect fit in this Charlotte offense. How his shooting gravity and the way that Charles Lee likes to run offense are like a perfect marriage for Con Knueppel, and how great he's played the first few games of the season. And then little pregame piece for the Heat today, which two things I called out: the pace that Miami plays with, Charlotte needs to be ready for that because Miami's going to match the way Charlotte wants to play. I can't remember what the number was, but Miami destroyed Charlotte in fast break points. I wrote about Miami's bench, how they're like a deeper and more talented team than people realize. And Jaime Jaquez, 20 points off the bench. Nikola Jovic, double digits off the bench. So yeah, a couple things ahead of the Orlando game coming to. Probably going to take a look at some of T. Song's defensive possessions have not been great in my opinion, so we'll take a look at that. Maybe put some, throw a cold towel over those that are expecting and loving this Tijon leap that we've seen this season. But yeah, be on the lookout for some of that stuff heading into the Orlando game on Thursday.
Guys, Matt is one of the best in the business at this. I'm not saying that just because, he's on this pod with me at 10:14 p.m. on a Tuesday night. I'm saying it also because you guys realized it in the last video we did. We got a lot of good comments saying good analysis. They liked the conversation that we had. We're talking and keeping it strictly to basketball. And a lot of that is because of this guy right here, Matt Alquiza. So I'll put his stories in the description for this video. Matt, I will see you on Thursday for the Orlando Magic game. And probably won't hear from us from their home game. Won't probably do recaps for that because we'll be doing post game, and by the time the video goes up, it'd be 3 a.m. in the morning. But away game, they are what 2-2 now. Chance to go back above 500 on Thursday against the Magic. Thank you guys for listening to another episode. Um, until next time, peace.